Hello, everyone. Welcome to this webinar with Compass Plus and Consult Hyperion. And today, this webinar is following on from the recent white paper which we published, which was entitled "Escaping the Legacy Mindset: How to Approach Modernising Your Payments Ecosystems." So, before we get into that, we'll just introduce everyone who's in the panel. I'm Gary Munro. I'm the CTO and Technical Director at Consult Hyperion. I've had a long background in payments and looking at payment systems. And I'm pleased to introduce Maria.
I'm Maria Nottingham. I am a Managing Director of Compass Plus Technologies and also the founder.
Thank you. And Bethan.
Hi, I'm Bethan Cowper. I am the Vice President of Market and Business Development at Compass Plus.
And Eyad.
Hello, everybody. I'm Eyad, the Vice President, Project Management of Compass Plus Technologies. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Apologies, I got your name wrong.
That's okay.
That's fine. But anyway, it's a pleasure to have you all here for this discussion on the tech on the paper, and also to help. I guess let's start. Why are we? This is the third of a series of papers which we've written to help people understand more about processing platforms and why they're important. Right, Bethan, do you want to give a little bit of background on why we're here and what we're talking about?
Yeah, sure. So the reason we started this series of papers is because I think for about 20 years now, industry experts and analyst firms have been saying that legacy is bad, legacy has a shelf life, and legacy is not here to stay, and that people need to start considering actually modernizing their payments platforms, their systems and their cores from the ground up. Now, we're still exactly where we were 20 years ago. The message is still legacy systems are dead, dying, they have a shelf life. And here we sit with the same situations where we've got the monolithic banks with their very, very old systems, which we call kind of Gen 1. We've got slightly more modern systems, modular systems, Gen 2, and very few actual innovators in terms of their whole technological environment, their whole tech stack. So we just wanted to drive home the importance of actually looking at the whole tech stack, because also in that time frame, in the 20 years that have passed, we've gone from being developments being very bank focused, bank heavy. They were driving what they wanted, to a really consumer focused environment where the consumers want this, that, and the other. They want it quickly, they want it now. And in order to compete, FIs and banks have really had to focus on their front end. What we discussed previously, that's shiny and new and exciting, the things that get those metrics up, those subscribers, those new customers, the numbers that banks want to be showing out to the public. However, we want to look at how has been overlooked. These core systems that drive everything really are fundamental to growth and innovation. And whilst we're just so hyper-focused on the front end, we're not focusing on the engine that drives these systems and that can really make a difference in long-term sustainable growth, long-term sustainable longevity within the market. And we really want to bring the focus back home to where it counts. Excellent,
thank you. And I think there's a few things you brought out there which we'll discuss again as we go through. But there's this hyper focus on the front end, and I guess it's a change. The banks used to just produce what they needed for what they thought was right, but along came the fintechs and started focusing purely on the front end part, and that's made it difficult for people to Eyad, you've seen this in the real world. Have you got some examples of how this is coming to life, or not coming to life, as it were?
Yeah, of course. Well, First of all, it is a rapidly evolving industry. Everybody knows that and agrees with me. And banks, still depending on legacy systems, are facing like struggles to adapt and integrate modern solutions alongside the outdated architecture. The limitation in the back end that Bethan mentioned result in higher maintenance cost, slower performance and transaction processing, and a delay in delivery in general. And the risk continues. So there is a risk to for failure, outages, and so on, you know. And real life example, sorry.
So I was just going to say that all sort of catches up on people unexpectedly, isn't it? It's like the change, and working away, and suddenly you find yourself where your system is starting to fall over, and outages become more important, particularly when the architectures become more complex.
Absolutely. So there is always a try. Architects usually try to overcome these challenges. They come up with some techniques or solutions to overcome these challenges and try to avoid replacing that legacy backend. They apply or deploy orchestration layers, try to deploy microservices, API gateways, and all of these. Well, they help relieve some of these problems, but they definitely do not address the ultimate problem. They do not fundamentally fix the issue. So, and at the end, they end up with a complex jungle of modules, applications, scripts here and there, and workarounds that over time will complicate everything, and they will start finding that even the cost to operate and maintain this structure is exponentially increasing.
I mean, that's kind of key.
I'd like to add as well. It's basically creating multiple points of failure. When you've got a legacy system, you're already sitting on a point of failure. But your starting point, your foundation, is the point of failure. So what you're doing then, you are layering on top of the point of failure more and more and more things. But it's quite difficult to integrate new things into that legacy system. So even if you want to work with, partner with fintechs, and there are multiples, and we know that that's a strategy, and although that strategy, you know, makes sense and has a place, but integrating a myriad of fintechs and partnerships, and we've seen they go into over 100 fintechs that connect to the in essence legacy system. Now imagine that's 126 points of failure. That's 126 companies out there that control you, the bank, because they're all separate businesses with their own business ideas and strategies. So now your strategy is 126 strategies out there. Now, they're fintechs. Sometimes they just don't get an investment or enough investment. They fall over. What do? We've seen banks, oh, we're going to buy them. I mean, that's the usual approach for the bank, because you can't replicate what they're doing. You are now reliant on that. But all of them are connecting, and they can't connect to the legacy system straight away. Here comes the API layer, the orchestrator. So you're layering a point of failure with another vendor, which in essence, well, it's just another system, you know? So yeah, that's a point of failure. And then all of those 126 are also connecting to that. So it's not just a myriad of systems to maintain, like a jungle spaghetti system, you know, that we call, but it's just so breakable.
It's kind of interesting because orchestration done well serves a purpose, but to your points is that when you're orchestrating to add features to which really should be core features, but because you can't easily put these features in your core, and the need for speed, you join in through orchestration. And as you're saying, that this builds up quite quickly to this complex ecosystem where you do start having problems and you do start having issues. Because the fintechs, they do have limited life until they either become unicorns or they disappear, or someone buys them. The exit, I mean, being bought by a bank can be an exit strategy for fintechs as they move along in that. And if you're not the bank that buys them, then your product suite is in control by one of your competitors. So it's an interesting dilemma there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
orchestration layers are incredibly useful. We're really not trying to badmouth orchestration at all, but it depends what you're using them for. Now, if you're on legacy, you're using them as a sticking plaster, a temporary solution, and we all know in payments and technology, there's nothing more permanent than a temporary solution. So that's one issue. If you're using it as that kind of resuscitation tool to keep everything breathing, living, and going, then you are at the mercy of your orchestration layer. You are at the mercy of that vendor, and you are basically handing over your independence and your control to the vendor that's keeping you alive. Now, if you are using your orchestration layer strategically to enable new, less mission-critical features, for example, or to help kind of as an integration layer between all the different systems, because we are, let's face it, in a partnership world, we are in a multi-vendor world, then you're using integration to really enable your business and help innovate rather than to plug a gap and stop your ship from sinking.
Yes, you're using it properly as it's intended. It becomes a tool. It's almost, but I guess it's kind of interesting because the whole idea around orchestration is that things become plug and play. You can try something and it's not working, you can throw it away or replace it, and then you become adaptable. And that's one of the powers of orchestration. But where these features become actually eventually core to what you're actually delivering to your clients, then that orchestration there actually becomes a fixed part of your architecture, and you start to get into this, I guess, is a downward spiral, really, where your problems are starting to build as you move along. So, I mean, one of the things I'd like to sort of understand is that, you know, this metric-driven approach, where does this mindset come to? And is it just chasing the headlines? Is it what's bringing all of this about?
I think this is probably one for me again. Sorry to talk a lot. Basically, the metric driven is from the newer fintechs, newer banks, larger players. They come in, they point out they've been live for a year, they've got X million of new customers and X million new accounts and this many cards issued, and it is impressive. Now, this can be done for a number of reasons. It can be that they're trying to build up their numbers so they can sell, or they're upping their share prices. They're definitely trying to keep shareholders happy. And more traditional banks then try and compete with these metrics and these figures. But these, again, are short-term metrics, short-term figures. They're not showing sustainability. They're not showing how long your customers are staying with you. They're not showing, you know, X million people signed up for a card, how many people are actually using it and for how long. So it's very difficult to have a metric-based system to show longevity and to use internally as a base of success. Externally, yes, you've got your newspaper headlines. Yeah, you look fantastic on the stock market. You're upping your price. You're getting yourself out there. But you know, the payments business isn't just about that. We're not all about selling companies stocks and shares. It's also about driving services and keeping banks going. Now, lots of banks have been going for 40, 50, 60 years. And these are long-term businesses, and the benefits and the financials need to have a long-term view for actual success, unless you're just selling off parts of it and then fair play, congratulations, you've done your job.
Yeah, and I guess it's the fundamental underlying architecture which becomes really important, and what you do and how you manage that is kind of key to how you progress and how you deliver these services to your clients. So rather than looking at just bolting things on nice and quick, taking this longer term view, and we'll come back to this, becomes really important. Now, Maria, when we spoke about this before, you talk about the car analogy, which I love. You just go through the car.
Well, actually, it's a little bit like moving away from the first type of financial institution that we're seeing. So the first one is the legacy system harborer, the one that holds on to it, and then just layers, patches, plugins, anything, and works with multiple partnerships that start doing. Actually, I wanted to give an example slightly of your question. We've seen where a fintech offered a bank fees and limits layer to a debit card. That should be core. You should not have a bank that partners with fintech to run fees and limits part of the debit card. To me, that's just insane. I'm sorry, I can't choose a better word for this. But we've seen things like this. So that's the first type of financial institution. They need to strategize. They need to figure out what they're doing, because this is not sustainable. You've done it for 20 years. It's just getting worse. And that you need to, something needs to be done. People need to be invited, strategic people who will figure out how to move along. We will all understand that that's not going to happen overnight. You probably need good, maybe 10 years or so to get out of this situation, or be in a position where you go like, we're on a good road. But my kind of analogy is actually for the next type of financial institution that we're seeing around as a vendor. Obviously, we go around the market, we try to sell our much more modern platform, try to educate the market. And what we're seeing, there is a financial institution B that appears. Those who have understood the legacy is no-go. They need to do something. They properly understood that. They've either invited, like yourselves, to explain that, or invited people, from different companies who have achieved, legacy replacement elsewhere. So they understand. It's on every level of organization. They go, right, that's it. We've secured investment. We want to move from legacy system. Now we're going to try to choose a vendor. But unfortunately, what happens, you can decide that, but you cannot. This is majority of the people that we're seeing that are making these decisions in banks generally, sometimes in processing centers, that they cannot escape the legacy mindset.
Yeah.
So what they do is, and this is I also like the plane analogies and all sorts of analogies that you can show this at, that they take a new system that is like, let's say, like a Dreamliner, nice new plane, can achieve so much fuel economy, everything, efficiency. You've got new technology, everything, yeah. And all they do is, because the legacy mindset stops them from using that to the full. So all they do is just drive up and down the runway.
Yeah.
Because that's what they always have done. They don't even try to take off, try to use what that machine was created for. And we've seen that quite a lot. And now talking more about in terms of payments industry terms. So for example, we come in somewhere and the legacy system is spread over 6 different platforms. And they barely talk to one another. They already, in each individual looks like a spaghetti system, and between some of them just do not talk, or it has to be done offline. Nothing is online, no communication between those systems. And we come in and they go, oh, we are looking for orchestration layer. So we go, okay, orchestration, we can do that, okay. And then they go, but that's all we want. And we say, but there are a lot of vendors out there, not just us, that can also easily replace 1, 2, 3. Yeah. So we go, how? And it's going to make it a lot better. So you've got the orchestration and the 3 systems all together, all seamlessly, naturally integrated, it will all work fantastic, single view, all of that efficiency through the roof, guys. You've never seen this before. and they go, no, we have 6 systems. But you're looking for new systems that can do 3 together and the orchestration layer. And in fact, actually can have a go at the 4th system. 4 and 5, not really our thing. So that's probably partners. No, we have 6 systems and we want to stick with 6 systems. Why? Don't ask questions. 6 systems. And that's it. And you can't get away from this.
I mean, you spoke about FIA, FIB, and this comes out in the white paper where FIA is the legacy bank built on a monolithic architecture, and it takes a long time to make changes to that architecture, a long time to make changes to that system. So orchestration is their quick win, the way through on that. And then we talk about FIB, which is, as you say, has recognised that they need to change. They need a more powerful, more capable core, but they still have the same legacy mindset. We talk about it's renovation of the systems, not innovation of the systems. And then we talk about FIC, which we haven't mentioned yet, who are, I guess, are the more innovative, the more forward-thinking organisations in there. So, you've been on the other side of the fence. Can you help give us an understanding as to what constraints banks and processors sit under and why they don't make the leap to the third-generation systems?
Yeah, maybe, the most obvious reason is the fear of disruption, the fear of interrupting. So as long as it works, don't touch it, So this is, the first obvious reason. And this is one of the main reasons why they always keep pushing for addressing the challenging demands in the market by adding new components, making things even more complex. There is the cultural resistance, what Maria just mentioned. We needed 6, let's keep it 6, don't ask questions. It is there. And, they feel that it's their efforts that they have been working. So it is really cultural, it's cultural as well. And of course, there is the other main point also that I can mention is the wrong assumption, the illusion that the replacement is costly and it will cost us much more than we can afford. And why it's illusion? Because I strongly believe that actually keeping things as is will cost you even more. Not only financially cost you, but even reputationally, the competition in the market. That's a cost that no one can recover. So this is in general what I can,
The thing is that this becomes evident to users. I know myself, I have a financial service product and I like the product, but trying to use it from the mobile app, some of it works really well. And then you hit the parts where you really see, oh, we hand over to the legacy system, which really can't do this. And you really struggle. And you're throwing your mobile phone at the wall to try and, just in frustration at trying to make all of this. And it does provide a poor customer experience. And if you're given a choice between 2 different products from different organizations, you will go with the one that's going to make your life easier and how you're going to operate in that.
So a technology company, Gary, so we tend to talk about the technical side, but from a business perspective, change is scary.
Yeah.
You're sitting on a board, you've got your metrics. Look, we've done this many cards, this many million, hundreds of millions, billion, whatever. And people want to hear is business is going well, we're in budget, and everything's ticking along nicely. We're competitive. What they don't want to hear is, well, actually, we're in a bit of a pickle. We should probably start revising how we're doing things. We should start from the bottom. We should spend lots of money, and we should make big changes. Now, a lot of people in the financial industry are sitting at the position where if they stay quiet, within 10 years, they'll get their bonuses, get a great retirement package and leave. And making change is scary. It takes courage, it takes bravery to make real change. Now, there are much more simplistic ways to make a big difference. It's not rip and replace. It's a modern day world. There are lots of different migration strategies out there, lots and lots and lots of ways of doing things. But from a business perspective, people have always been adverse to change unless you are financial institutions C or bank C, as we call them, where you're starting from scratch. And it's much easier to build a beautiful, amazing system when you haven't got all of these interdependencies and other partners and companies and board members and shareholders and all of this to contend with, as well as all of the technological side. So it's a lot to deal with and a lot to contemplate.
It's very difficult, yeah, and change is quite scary to organisations, and particularly if you've been doing things in a certain way for a long period of time. Bringing that change about normally means you have to change your people, to change your mindset, and that's difficult for organisations to recognise and take the plunge on there. So if we spoke about FIA and FIB and legacy and a sort of new tech type second generation systems, let's focus a little bit on FIC and the type of systems that they are operating on. Now, we talk about two different types of third generation system. Talk about open development platforms, and we talk about microservice systems. So what's the difference between the two? What's the pluses and minuses of these third generation systems? So Compass Plus, your platform is an open development platform, I would suggest, yes?
Open development. I don't think microservices, microservices are also open development. I don't think those two are conflicting. It's just more how they're architected at the core. And there's a place for both. That's not from microservices. Basically, everything in our industry, new technologies that come out, and in fact, anything really that humans create has advantages and some fallbacks. So you need to figure out what's the best way of using it. Where is it going to deliver the most benefit? So building your entire payment stack on microservices is probably not the way to go. Unfortunately, sometimes that's another thing that we see in the industry, that when something shiny, brand new comes up, the usual statement is like, wow, drop everything we've ever done before, run there, because that's the solution to all of our problems. No, it's not. It never is. Technology is, we all know there is no perfect technology out there. No, you need to find the best way to use it. So for example, microservices, are they good for mission critical systems? Like really hardcore mission critical? Probably not. They're good for, well, I wouldn't necessarily call them auxiliaries, but, slightly away from the mission critical. So for example, fraud systems. Fraud systems can be built on microservices because I think it's a system where you need to churn out something very quickly, then drop it, and then add another one. But when you're adding those things, you're not creating technical debt. Not too much, because microservices, technical debt that any organization, in fact, 5 developers can create within a year is staggering. Yeah. And that's probably the main disadvantage of microservices, the one that needs to be really rigorously managed. But the managed part, everyone forgets. After a year, when the 5 developers, or one's remaining, 4 left, and they all joined, and then everyone's looking, going, oh, and back again, spaghetti system.
Yeah. You end up,
no one knows what's going on.
Yeah.
So that's microservices. So sorry, I just finished. But for example, in the fraud, for the fraud system, rules. You create rules very easily, and they don't. I mean, they will create some technical debt, obviously, but not with such a major impact that you go like, oh my God, we don't know what's going on, and our system is mission critical, and everything is about to fall apart. Not like that.
Absolutely. In fact, microservices in fraud systems will enhance the performance because I can build these microservices blocks and implement them with ease. They can take decisions, predict frauds, in parallel, interact with each other. So the architecture suits, the microservice architecture suits fraud prediction systems very well. One more idea, one more point that I believe makes third generation payment platforms different is that old legacy, second generation, first generation payment platforms all revolve around cards. So second and first generation, you always need to have a card in order to transact, in order to perform transaction or transfer funds. So in third generation, it's totally different. I have seen several examples when wallet providers, mobile operators approaching banks, processing centers, asking for their service to support the back-end functionality of their wallets. And always the answer is, let's create a prepaid card. You need to open a project with that mobile operator, that payment network. We will certify a new BIN for you, and it's an endless, very long process and project that may take months just for that simple request. While in third generation payment platforms, we understand that payment is not only by card anymore. You can pay by your biometric data. You can pay by your digital ID or government ID. You can pay by your mobile number. So the whole concept is now different. And with that comes a lot of applications. Now we can do things that previously were completely impossible to do, because I'm not like I don't know how we can explain it, but I am not always linked with the need to have a card.
yeah. So this is the digital first approach, isn't it? This is thinking about we're making a payment. How we make that payment will really depend on the circumstances, and really depend what's good for the merchant and what's good for the consumer.
Yep. How to perform in the cheapest, most efficient way that will make everybody happy. The merchant will pay faster. The payment will be accepted widely, and the fees he will be charged is less because there is less players in the whole flow of the transaction, and the customer, the end user, will have it easier for him to pay. And one additional thing that's worth also mentioning is for third generation payments is, oh, I lost the point, so we need to cut this.
I can add something though.
Yeah.
Another important point for third generation systems, so the really modern ones, is the ability to apply disposable innovation, as we call. So in the older platforms, when we're talking old, it's like, even late 90s is that's old, unfortunately. And those are the main stronghold of the industry at the moment. So when you start innovating, first of all, I mean, all of those platforms always also evolved, to bring it to now. And there are exit points where everyone can, like a bank having bought that system in-house, they can write a user-defined function, they can build an interface. So they all have all of this innovation, I guess, exit points, yeah, from technologically speaking, yeah. And everyone can come in and write a user-defined function that makes a product behave in a certain innovative way from a business point of view. But it's hard. First of all, it's limited. So you're always limited in what is it that you can actually, as a user, define, or an interface that you can actually build. So there's always limits everywhere. And it takes you much longer to build. And usually, as a bank, you can only do that much before involving the vendor, at least through consultations. But sometimes you just give up and go like, I've started, I can't finish this. And then the vendor comes in and goes, oh, but that thing that you're trying to build actually cannot be done by user-defined functions. You actually need to do a little bit in the core of the system, and then you can do user-defined function. So there's always some kind of if, but, no, because, and then, and what, something just does not flow. Okay. Now because once you build that kind of, again, well, let's just use user-defined function, a function of some sort, it's no longer very disposable, because you now need to use it. You need to make sure that your investment is justified. And you can't just try, fail, bin it, start again. That's what the disposable innovation is. Now with third-gen systems, that is really, really simple. You can do, first of all, a lot more. The engine, the field for creativity is a lot wider and taller, or whatever, whichever way you want to measure it. And you can write a function, and it takes you, well, actually an hour. There's some functions you can do very quickly. In fact, not even an hour. Some take you, I don't know, 20 minutes to write. That's it. Deploy it, have a look what's going on. Okay, obviously don't deploy it immediately to production, run some tests, but deploy it, see if it takes off in the market. If it doesn't, well, you probably spent 2, 3, maybe 5 together with the testing of man days of your personnel efforts. That's disposable. That's disposable for anybody, no matter the size of a financial institution.
And that really, the fintech approach of fail fast.
Definitely.
Be afraid.
That's the financial institution C approach. That's why they go, let's try this. Oh, it's failed. Never mind. Bin it. Let's try that. Let's try this. I mean, financial institution B, let alone financial institution A, they can't even dream of this. They just cannot. It's impossible.
And you see people doing this during COVID times, for example, the fact that they could just come up with these really quick card products where, if you've got an elderly relative, you could go and do their shopping for them, or you could transfer money to different cards. And it was really very, very quick, and people did very well off these products. But a lot of people couldn't. A lot of financial institutions found themselves in a situation where they couldn't react quickly to the market and capitalize on those kind of situations and help their customers.
And I guess this is where we come back to what the key message here is, that you can focus on the front end to create the shiny things, but if you don't focus on the back end and the core and ensure your core is sufficient, you won't be in a position to follow this innovation trend or lead on this innovation trend. When we look at innovation, we have true innovators in the market, and we have other people who describe themselves as a fast follower. But to be a fast follower, you still need the technology and the platform underneath you to be able to do that.
Ironically, a lot of the issues are kind of budgetary constraints. You want those fast wins, so you spend on the front end. But if you're looking at those older banks, and it's not that they're not spending on the core systems. They have huge budgets, but these budgets are having to be spent on maintenance, keeping them ticking over, keeping them running. And if they just looked longer term and thought, well, we've got these huge expenditures, these huge outgoings just on keeping things alive, we could look at investing these and just creating something that will help us for the future and allow us to be more competitive, more agile, and for systems to all run much more efficiently. I mean, the advantages are huge, but I think we were talking the other day about this, and Eyad said it's a step of courage, and it is, and we understand it's a step of courage, but the benefits are immediate.
Yeah, and this is we see this quite often. Is the sunk cost fallacy? Is that I spent 5 million on this platform last year. Why do I need to replace it?
Let me tell you from real examples as well. In many countries now, there is the mandate to have the payment platform deployed on soil inside the country. It's mandated, it's common. Now, for many processors who operate in different countries, when they come to this request, and this is a simple example, they find out that in order to deploy this spaghetti jungle of platforms in that country to serve those few banks that I'm serving, I will be spending millions of dollars. Is it worth it? When I'm gonna break even of that investment? And they start asking themselves those crucial questions, fundamental questions. Do I need to drop the business in this country or not? And they start losing, because the cost of all this spaghetti, old outdated architecture is very high to deploy. This is one obvious example on how keeping that outdated architecture will be costing you more. You might be even losing business because of that. And this is actually real life examples. They are everywhere. And not to mention that even if I'm not deploying in any third country, I'm just keeping my business and I don't want to touch it as much as long as it works. If I want to deploy a new feature or apply CI/CD, for example, functionality, or go with agile approach, I saw examples where we have hundreds of developers working just to overcome all these challenges of that outdated system, writing scripts that change directly in the database, not to mention the risk, not to mention the risks of doing that, but they found that it's the only way to do it. And in order to maintain it, you will need to also keep growing that human resources, like number of resources that you have. And instead of investing their efforts in something futuristic, you are spending their efforts on things that are just to cover these gaps. So this is investment that's going, in my opinion, in the wrong direction. While I think it's crucial for executives in any financial institution to first understand and acknowledge that the need of modernization is crucial and it's pressing. And once they have that acknowledgement, everything will be easy.
I want to add something here, which is kind of missed, but if you speak to any HR at any financial institution or even vendor or processing center, you will find that they will tell you this. And something definitely is overlooked usually, but it's a real problem. Your developer base around the world is being replaced by Gen Ys, and very soon, if not already, Gen Zs.
Yeah.
None of them want to work on your legacy platform. I really want to look into the decision makers' eyes and say, you are running out of people. They do not want to work on legacy systems.
No.
Now, eventually, for lack of better word, and I'm sorry to sound like this, people who can run your legacy system will just die.
Yeah. Or retire.
I'm afraid.
Yeah.
People will not want to do it. Like you basically the brick wall is coming. If not from, market, business, consumers perspective, from your personnel, the brick wall is coming. You can crash against it. That's it.
I wish I had COBOL programming skills. I'd make an awful lot of money.
Yeah.
But this is this takes us back to the point of what these papers are about. It's to start to educate the execs about the need to look after their architectures and not just what's at the front end, what are you seeing at the thin layer on top. This is about how you need to take a holistic view of your overall architecture, your overall structure, in what's delivering for your customers, because that's where the important part is. You have to be delivering for your customers. So how do we get FIAs and FIBs to move and become an FIC? What's the key to unlocking this?
I think for FIA, it's very important, something that Eyad mentioned definitely, is to understand that you are spending and increasingly spending more money on maintaining. So cost is not, no, the cost argument is out of the window. It's a basic A-level accountant student can tell you, no, mathematically, you should, that's fine, just do this. But I think more importantly is that fear of change. Or sometimes, unfortunately, is where do we start?
Yeah.
Start thinking about it, and very quickly it becomes, the fear grows. We've seen it in people's eyes, like literally you can see go like, we'd like to change, but it's crazy project. It's not. So I think it's, again, speaking to vendors out there, to consultants out there that have seen it all, have seen how these projects, take shape and change a legacy-based FI, and look at different migration strategies. Some of them are not really, I wouldn't even call them migration strategies, because it's not migration. All you need to do is, you have an innovative idea, for example, yeah? And instead of trying to search for a new fintech or whatever it is you're trying to do, see how that idea connects through your technology stack at the moment. What is the legacy? What may be fintech, maybe layer, and try to carve that product, in essence, out, yeah? And write business requirements, and then look for a vendor to implement that bit. Then obviously, forget about the servers and all that, Amazon or any other cloud provider. Take that product, those requirements into the cloud. The vendors with open development banking systems out there are not ridiculously expensive. I think FIAs, because they're used to crazy money, they literally measure in millions, everything's in millions. It's that mindset again that, oh, anything, any movement is like 2, 3, 4, 5 million immediately. It's not. It really isn't. It doesn't even have to be 1 million. You can, depending on what is it that you want to carve out, you can go with under 1 million investment. You go into cloud, the compute power of Amazon is like, it really is achievable. It's peanuts for a financial institution with the legacy. We're talking, those are big banks. Yeah. So that's not going to cost much. The platforms can be, I mean, it depends how many features you add to a platform. Yeah, vendors, yeah, we can start costing quite a bit, but you can start small. You can start small, definitely under 1 million. We're talking, for anything under 1 million for those kind of financial institutions, it's nothing. It's nothing. It's a drop in the ocean of spending. But that's how you start. And then that's, again, the beauty of open development, third-gen systems, microservice architectures, whatever. You start and build block by block. So you start this, you see it works, take something else, carve it out, add it, carve it out, add it. Yes, it's a road. It's a road. It's going to take you maybe 10 years, but you need to be on the road. You can't hide under the rock. Majority of them are hidden under the rock. They don't want to come out.
I think that's key. What you said there is that having this long-term roadmap and having your architecture and a vision for that architecture as part of that roadmap is absolutely vital to bring about change. If you can't do that, you're going to be stuck where you are, and you move from, as Bethan says, you go from an FIA to an FIB. You've bought new tech, but you're still stuck in the same mindset, and you're still stuck in the same way. But having that long-term roadmap and looking at how you manage things over time, and having that at exec level so you have the visibility on it, is absolutely critical to moving things forward and bringing about change in these organizations.
I'd also would add something that we see, and this is something definitely financial institutions that are, okay, they're trying to move. It starts, so like, for example, what I've described, they carved out a little part of their business. Say, I don't know, something like this. We do prepaid card on a new platform. That's it. Forget it. That's it. And maybe it's a specific type of prepaid card. So even smaller products, so carve it out. But what happens, and it's a problem as well, they go to vendors, and because all of us vendors, usually really capable, not going to bring anyone down here, we support much wider functionality. And when we start presenting to financial institutions going, oh, we can also do this, we can also do that, what happens is suddenly there is no strong enough hand in the bank go, stick to our strategy. We decided prepaid cards. Don't start adding, because they go, prepaid debit cards are very similar. I'm like, why not debit cards? It's just, we'll integrate with core banking. We integrate with this, that, and the other. No, let's add debit cards. Well, if we're doing cards, let's add credit cards. Well, if we're doing credit cards, let's add, and suddenly it's growing. And as soon as it starts growing, it goes, oh my God, investment's massive. We don't understand what's going on. And suddenly the whole project goes scrap. We have seen it a lot.
Yeah.
Starts nicely, and then like almost the eyes are shining, the eyes are too big, let's get it. Oh my God, it's amazing. And I understand, it's I understand how you can fall into this trap, because if you work on legacy and a vendor comes in and goes, this is how it should work, and they go, oh wow, oh wow, I want it all suddenly. But then it just, everything crumbles and you get gridlocked, and that's it. And the whole projects fail. We've seen it, Bethan, several times. We start with 10, we get chosen as a vendor, or sometimes there's 2 in the running, and the whole process took a year. And suddenly we get a response going, we decided to put the project on hold indefinitely.
Yeah.
I'm sure, Gary, you must have heard that as well.
So many times.
One thing to note is just any step away from the legacy mind step is a step in the right direction, no matter how big, no matter how small. And that's what we intend to hopefully get people thinking about with the white paper that we've written.
Yeah, it's bring about innovation and start thinking differently and start looking up. It takes a strong focus on your architecture and a strong focus on where you need to go and the steps along the way, and do it step by step. Yes. We're told a big bang approach is too scary somewhat, and the risks are enormous. The challenges are enormous. But by taking this in a step by step and having this roadmap for change, then that starts to put you in the right path, moving the right way.
I would also add, sorry, you go.
Yeah, one thing that I think is also important to discuss is that there are too many FIAs in the world with multiple platforms, etc., as you know. And most of them, they believe and they accept, they acknowledge the need to move and to transform. But the risk is that they fell into the trap of upgrading their architecture to become from FIA to FIB instead of going to FIC. So, yes. Okay, we have 3 platforms, one for debit cards and ATMs. And then, you look at their architecture and you can read the history of the bank. They started with this, and then when they were interested in credit cards, they bought a new platform, they put it and they integrated together, and then they decided to go to do merchant acquiring, so they bought a 3rd platform. You can read their history from the architecture. And usually, none of them argue that there is a need to transform, or there is a need to fix this. Most of the majority acknowledge that, but they fell in the trap. And instead of reading where the technology is going, selecting the right platform that is a third generation platform, they go to second generation one, and they become FIB. They fill in that another 5-10 years journey until they are again too late. So that's why I think we need to like raise the awareness and show exactly where the industry is going, and so that the executives can really select build the criteria that can select what is the future for them.
And what I wanted to add, just talking about the strategy, and it's the importance of making first step, no matter how small, and stay focused and stick to your strategy, is look at the neobanks closely. When they came about, did they come up with debit, credit, prepaid, everything, merchant, ATMs? No, look at them. Many of them, the very successful ones, I'm not going to mention names here, but very successful ones, if you look, and they are profitable, not just investor successful. No, they're profitable. So not this front end, we've issued that many cards, we've, have that many loans, portfolio, whatever. No, they're actually profitable. And if you look at them, look how focused, how incredibly focused they are. And even if you see over the last maybe 10 years that they've been in the market, how the strategy slowly progresses. They don't suddenly run into acquiring. They don't spread out like that. They don't spread themselves thin. You can see the strategy is very focused, and they're sticking to it. They don't run around, and just because okay, they're growing, they're obviously partnering as well. So FIC is not like a island in the ocean. I don't partner with any. They do, but it's so strategic and it's so focused, and that's how you get there. Don't spread yourself too thin. Stick to the strategy. Follow it.
Excellent advice. Yes. So we're about out of time on this. Bethan, I'll give you the last word on this. It's that really, this is really what these papers have been about. It's about creating an understanding, really, and thinking about what your strategy is and how you manage your roadmap and how you have your vision. So what would your final message be?
So the final message. Oh gosh, well, there's so many in here, aren't there? Yeah. It is just to take stock, take a look at the bigger picture. Look at everything that you've got, look at who you are, look at where you want to be, and make decisions slowly based on return of efforts, not just return on investment. And you can't go wrong. I think don't be fearful of change. See change as what it is. It is a challenge, but it's a challenge that can bring great benefit.
Excellent. Maria, Bethan, Eyad, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.